Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to call to order the 12 o'clock Department Head Budget Presentation Meeting of May 4th, 2026. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Go.
Here.
Vice Mayor Corr. Councilmember Arias. Councilmember Gonzalez.
I'm here.
Councilmember Weir. Councilmember Smith.
I'm here.
Councilmember Coman.
Here.
And Councilmember Bashir Tosh.
Thank you. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for engaging with us today. In keeping with Council's resolution, the public statements portion is divided into two periods. There's a period for items listed on the meeting agenda and items not on the agenda. Statements for items listed on this afternoon's agenda are given a 2-minute time limit, 20 minutes total per agenda item. Statements regarding items not listed on the agenda are also given a 2-minute time limit, 20 minutes total. If you have written comments that are longer than your verbal statement, give them to the clerk, who will give copies to the council. If you're here to make a public statement, please fill out a public speaker card and give your completed card to the clerk. We ask that you mark whether you're here to speak on an item listed on this afternoon's agenda or in a matter not on the agenda. Speakers who do not identify a specific agenda item will be presumed speakers for the non-agenda portion. Those speakers will be called during the non-agenda portion of the meeting. Everyone in attendance is expected to adhere to the rules of decorum established by resolution of the City Council. Failure to abide by the city's rules of decorum, including any disruptive behavior that interferes with our ability to have an orderly and efficient meeting, prevents the City Council from conducting the business of the city. Consider this a first warning to everyone in attendance that conduct that disrupts this meeting may result in expulsion and/or the chambers being cleared. Madam Clerk, do we have any public speakers regarding items not listed on the agenda?
Mayor Go, we have not received any speaker cards regarding items not listed on today's agenda, nor have we received speaker cards for items listed on the agenda.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Reports item 3A, fiscal year 2026-27 Department Budget Presentation, Budget Workshop Number 1.
Budget Workshop Number 1. Mr. Clegg.
Mayor Go, Honorable Mayor and Council, this is one of two workshops that we will have. The second one will be held on May 18th. And I would note before we jump into our first department presentation that we will have some wrap-up content at May 18th that summarizes the budget in whole. We're not starting off with that summary of budget in whole. We're going to jump right into our department presentations. But at your May 18th, you'll see what our numbers are for the capital improvement program, the total general fund numbers. At your last workshop, you saw some preliminary numbers for the general fund and also in the memo for public safety vital services tax. You saw some preliminary numbers for that specific portion of the general fund. We'll have a summary of all of that on May 18th. Prior to the more in-depth budget considerations and vote for June. But for today's meeting, we're going to walk through first our general government. Then we're going to have our city attorney's office, finance present their budgets, recreation and parks, and then police and fire. Before we even get all the way to those departments, each department has been asked to follow a similar template that we've used the last couple of years. An interesting slight exception, the police department recently presented a very lengthy public safety update. And so the police department presentation is just a little bit shorter because we're not going to repeat the same content that was presented at your last city council meeting. So with that preface, I'll just jump into general government as we term it. There are several portions of the city manager's office and legislative budgets that we cover collectively in what we call this general government portion. And so this will be the first department that we'll go through. And again, you'll see how that template plays out throughout the other departments as well.
Great. And you're going to be setting the tone and showing us that we don't have to have every word read to us,
Absolutely,
right?
Mayor.
Okay, that's great.
Absolutely. And I was actually going to jump right to, now again, these numbers do reflect the budget reductions that you saw in your workshop in March. And so on the personnel services line there, there's a slight increase. We know we were going to have some increases due to different factors, the cost of living adjustments, the increases for health costs and for insurance costs. Those play out into all the personnel line items of all the departments. But because we also saw the 5% reduction that went into the budget, and you'll see that in the next slide, a very modest overall increase in those personnel services. Operations has a much larger increase, and that's because we took on the operating costs of the economic development function. And so the economic development function has about $1.5 million of operating contract support dollars, and so that's why you see that large increase in operations there. It's interesting to note, actually, and we'll see it a little bit more on the next slide as well. The city manager's office took on one position that had previously been in risk, and the 3 positions from the economic and community development department. And still our personnel line item was only modestly increased because we made other reductions in personnel before taking on those additional positions. And you'll just note below in the funding sources that larger piece of the operating costs is reflected in the general fund public safety vital services tax line item. That $1.9 million is representative of those economic development operating dollars that we principally use for contracting for the tools and resources and incentives to do economic development. Those are the biggest changes for the city manager's office budget. Just as a high-level reflection, again, I've already talked about economic development moving. We also had some positions in community vitality that were associated in the city manager's office. As that program has evolved organically, it makes the most sense for those individuals to be within the purview of the police department for being able to access confidential information that's in CAD and other reporting systems. And so we'd been moving in that direction, but formalized the shift of those community vitality operations over to the police department. And then just as a note, we've been preparing for and we'll continue to move forward with some notable changes to how we manage parking, and we'll be kicking off a pilot for that program in this coming year. We'll just note that in this last year, we've spent a lot of effort on the Cohort 5 grant award for CalVIP. That's good news. That's going to help us continue to move forward with that program. We've been working very hard out of our office on a federal ADA requirement to update accessibility, as well as we've been continuing to push forward with some specific annexations, as well as preparing for larger scale annexations. We actually are in the process of the legal descriptions of several large annexation requests and the early stages of setting the pieces in place that we can submit those applications through LAFCO. Here, just again, a reflection of the personnel changes as noted. We have eliminated an assistant city manager. We moved some of the community vitality staff, and again, took on the economic development and that one position from risk. For the city clerk's office, you'll note that there was, again, a slight increase there in personnel services. That doesn't mean there were any increases in personnel, but just those cost line items that are not in control for the clerk's office. But clerks did identify other operating reductions that could be handled for a overall reduction in those operating costs. We appreciate looking hard at. It's a very small budget and a tight budget, but Julie and her team found some ways to achieve some savings there for all of us. We again are treating ultimately the hiring freeze and eliminations for all of general government as a whole. And so with a very small department, for example, in clerks and risk, that their 5% reductions were achieved in combination with all of the different units of the city manager's offices. So their personnel count does not have any changes. And again, we saw the personnel costs go up due to some of the other health cost increases and the cost of living adjustment. This past year, we've had a lot going on. We actually had two different pieces for filing requirements, and you'll note that on the second and the fourth bullet that we had an enhancement to NetFile, as well as there's new expanded ethics and fiscal financial training requirements that the clerks has helped to facilitate for us. We've also been able to continue to expand the use of eScribe to more of our boards, commissions, committees. And then we had a great Teen Government Day this past year that had a little bit of a reimagining and helped us to keep that engagement strong. For our risk division, on the personnel side, that top line reflects that one shift of that one position over to the city manager's office. On the operating side, you'll see a notable increase there, and we'll cover that on these upcoming slides. But in the risk space, we just continue to see increases that are hard for us to negotiate any better, and they're not really, within our control. In fact, I'll just shift over to the next slide and apologize for the size on that script, but a lot to cover there. And that we had some specific operational needs in our fire department. But then, and that's a small impact, but much bigger impact you see there is the workers' compensation program saw a 15% increase. A lot of that is our insurance premiums. Medical costs have seen inflation. We continue to see, workplace injuries. We've implemented tracking systems and early warning detection systems, but we're continuing to see, heavy experience there. And then our third-party administration fees are up, but the bigger pieces really are the insurance premiums and the state fees for self-insurance. On the next section over for liability, also up 10%, and we're seeing that those insurance premiums continue to go up at escalated rates that haven't been seen in many years. It's probably been 3 decades since we've seen things go up at the same level. And in large part, that is the lack of tort caps or tort, and the need for tort reform at the state level. And it continues to be a pressure on not just local government agencies, but many of our private entities as well. And that's why it's been reflected in our legislative platform as an important priority. And then fortunately, our property insurance slightly down. Those sometimes go up and down in market cycles. I wouldn't read too much into that. But we're thankful that we've seen some favorable pricing there in this last year. Our Visit Bakersfield budget is fairly steady. The personnel services changes are reflective, again, of some of the same other increases. The one other piece is that we actually, and as a reminder, the Visit Bakersfield is funded out of our transient and occupancy tax. It's still part of the general fund, but it's all of the budgeted funds come from TOT, for Visit Bakersfield. There was one portion of one of our staff members that could be charged to TOT that was not, and so we added that in, as well as the other regular increases are causing that a slight increase there in the personnel services line. But then we were able to also identify some offsets and some shifts that helped us to get some operating savings without major changes in the programs that we provide for the benefit of the community and for the benefit of tourism. And so would just want to note some of those different pieces. Many of the events that we've been successful on in the past, we've continued to be able to have those similar events take place here, multiple successful sporting events. We also were able to get a couple of new events, and so we're excited about those and want to continue to see that moving forward. And then in addition to the events specifically, the combination of our communications and marketing with Visit Bakersfield, we feel is providing good dividends, that we've added some new tools. We have a new community events calendar. We've have the new Bakersfield Historic Trail. We had a lot of success with some of our other trails or walks, and so we added the historic trail. We've got improved noticing and signage in our local airport, as well as a driving tour that folks can also take of Bakersfield. In this coming year, we expect to continue to increase the social media presence. We've got a new app that's going to help us get a lot more exposure there. And then we're going to continue again in many of these same events, and we're thinking through ways that we can expand out and get even some more of those larger events. And we're looking forward to the expansion of Mesa Marin. That's going to put us on the map for much larger tournaments in the next couple of years. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions on general government.
Thank you, Mr. Clegg. Colleagues, do you have any questions? Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Clegg, for your presentation today. I wanted to jump right into the topic of risk management. So we have a workers' compensation increase of 15%, $3.1 million. Liability insurance has increased by 10%, $1.4 million. That's a $4.6 million increase year over year. So the same delivery of services as this current year for next year, and yet all of our expenses have grown just by the insurance costs by $4.6 million.
That is correct.
Couple questions there. One is, we've talked about cost-based accounting for a while, and I know the city manager's office is moving in that direction. As it stands today, do we, and I know it sounds odd to members of the public, but does the city charge the department for these insurance-related costs based on employee counts or type of work, or however you may do that? But are departments charged?
Yeah, good question, Councilmember Run. I'll ask Ms. Gina Covey to come up and help add in detail where I'm lacking in that detail. But it's interesting you point out the cost allocation plan is an area that we do need to move towards. Fortunately, in the area of risk and insurance, we are charging out to the departments. And so when we do a cost allocation plan, that won't, I guess, sort of solve that challenge, because we already are making allocations to the departments. But Gina, do you want to go a little more into detail about how we do that?
Ms. Covey?
That's correct. Gina Covey, Risk Manager. Councilmember Gonzalez, yes, we do allocation method for all of our programs. The Risk Department acts almost like an insurance provider. So we allocate costs out a little bit differently by payroll for workers' comp and severity of claims status. And then for liability, we do it by severity of claims and lawsuits.
Okay, great. And I also want to mention that this is not unique, from my understanding, not unique to Bakersfield, right? The increases in workers' compensation or liability increases.
Correct. That's correct. We're seeing it across all public entities. That's why it's important, especially on the liability side, to really be pushing for those tort caps to try and control some of those costs for some of that litigation we're seeing across the state.
And what are those actions, steps we might be able to take as a council, or city management, department heads might be able to take to help reduce those costs over time? Reduce exposure and perhaps in turn reducing the premiums?
Great question. So we are trying to work at thinking outside the box. So just for litigation, we have, and I know our city attorney will talk about some of the lawsuits we have, but motor vehicle accidents is something we've really seen that we can work on. So we're working on bringing in driving simulators to really further push our employees into more remediation training and training on the onset of coming into the organization. On the workers' comp side, we're doing audits. We're meeting with our largest departments all the time, once a month for our Bakersfield Police Department to make sure they understand and stay on top of what those work-related injuries look like and how we can impact them in real time.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Councilmember, you mentioned that other cities are experiencing the same issues, and indeed they are. Big City Mayors is very concerned about the tort issues, and so we have taken that on as a cause. Thank you, Ms. Covey and Ms. Gennaro, for providing information that's needed for that. I know Cal Cities also is taking on that challenge. Councilmember Smith, please. And just for the record, City Clerk, Councilmember Bashir Tosh entered at 12:08.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple questions. First, the economic development operations were really kind of getting rid of a department, but not getting rid of it and moving it. If you could kind of explain that in more detail. And then also the parking, you used the term enterprise, city parking enterprise. What's really happening in the future with the parking?
Great questions, Councilmember. So first on economic and community development, again, as a combined department that was created 4 years ago, as we move forward, we're going to continue to do the work of economic development. And in fact, I would suggest that that's one of the most important things that we can do to grow our revenue base and grow our tax base, for the community, is to continue to help create more quality jobs in this community. And so rather than having those two functions combined, community development is now going to be part of development services. We have a small team, 3-member team for economic development. They'll be reporting to Gary Hallen, Assistant City Manager in the City Manager's office. And that's actually the unit that was working specifically on economic development in the community and economic development department was about that same size. But also we're taking the dollars that were available for our economic development strategic plan and our small business assistance, and also keeping those dollars intact. And we've already been in the process of creating several other relationships with regional entities in Bakersfield and Kern, like Chamber, KEDC, B3K, as well as also having some standalone contracts of the city. You'll remember, for example, we did, when we did the mega site contracts, some of the work was specific to that mega site location uniquely, but then some of the work that they did was to help us identify what are some of the things we just need to do to market better as a city and other locations that might also be for industrial or logistics. And so you'll be seeing in coming months contracts that we've actually been working on for several months now that would help give us more tools to continue to market the Bakersfield as a whole, but then also specifically target site readiness of sites for some of our industry clusters. And so the work of economic development absolutely is going to continue, but we're creating this ecosystem that is a mix of some contracts with regional partners, specific contracts with private entities that are in support and giving us the tools that we need, rather than let's say necessarily build a bigger team of city employees, but have folks deliver those services to us on contract, but also still have that small core team that's really hyper-focused on job generation. So that's the economic development portion. Now I forgot your second
Parking
question.
enterprise.
Parking, yes, thank you. So parking enterprise, and I'm glad you used the word enterprise, because I was maybe getting a little ahead of myself that we haven't formalized the parking revenues and expenses as a separate enterprise yet, but that is our intent in this coming year. Right now, it's actually, we do collect revenues into the general fund, but we actually pay more in operating costs out of the general fund than revenues that we bring in. Not a huge amount, but we are subsidizing the parking functions in downtown each year. And the intent is to separate those out take another look at what do we charge, but also make it easier to park and then also easier to charge by the use of technology. And we're going to start at the 18th and I garage, and then some street level parking in the adjacent areas. We don't want anybody to get too ahead of us on what that might look like, because we still need to go out to the businesses in the downtown area and have some of those conversations about what that could and should look like. And so we're anticipating doing that community outreach actually just in coming months. We're having some meetings with Downtown Business Association and other businesses in the downtown area. But the plan is to then start using our surface lots more intentionally. That the city does own some surface lots downtown. We own the garage. If we move forward with acquisition of the Truxton Towers, that would give us more inventory to then also manage in this parking enterprise. But it's been demonstrated in many communities that parking can pay for itself and even be a revenue generator. We're not doing it to try and make a lot of money, but we think if it generates enough revenue that it can allow us the ability to build more parking to meet the demands where there are demands, and some places there are more, and some places there's probably sufficient. But having an enterprise that focuses on that, uses these newer technology tools to help us determine what our market rates, where is there demand or need. We're excited to start using those tools now we actually got a grant to start off this pilot program for the parking enterprise. And not only eliminate a small subsidy that comes from the general fund, but also just manage it much more intentionally to the benefit from an amenity standpoint for the downtown area.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Others? I don't see any other requests, so we'll go on to our next one.
Which is our city attorney's office.
Welcome.
Welcome. Good afternoon. I am Virginia Gennaro, your city attorney, and I will be giving the fiscal year 26-27 budget for the city attorney's office. So I start out with this slide every year, and I do it really as a reminder for our listening audience to see that the City Council has two employees. You have the city manager through contract, and you have your city attorney through contract. And as you can see by this chart, you now have a third employee, and that is the chief assistant city attorney, who has not yet been hired, but I am hopeful will be hired here by the beginning of this upcoming fiscal year. And so we've put that box on the slide in two places. One, as it's reporting directly to the City Council, because that will be a contract position. That chief assistant will not be part of any bargaining unit. And then we also put it in a grayed out version underneath the city attorney, because they will be loosely directed under me until I leave. So it's a transitional position, again, for those in the listening audience, reporting to the council, but loosely directed under the city attorney. This is the slide that the city manager indicated that the budget team is asking all departments and divisions to put before you. I have put it up in the front. It's also a duplicate. I've put it at the back, and I just want to explain a little bit. In that lower right-hand corner, you can see that our budget has increased by 9.6%. Even though the city manager and the finance director have asked everyone to take a 5% cut. I'm going to explain so that you understand why that really would be incredibly difficult, if not impossible, for our office to do that with such a small size. Meaning that, as City Manager Clegg indicated with some of the other small departments, even if we were to stay absolutely the same and not change anything, with the generous cost of living that the council recently authorized and the increase in operational costs, insurance, etc., it would still increase by 9.6%. Having said that, there are 13 positions within our complement, within the city attorney's complement. You can see those there in a linear format. I think what's critical to look at is the chief assistant city attorney is not yet funded. The assistant city attorney is not yet funded. There are two deputy city attorneys that are not yet funded. One of them is, of the two deputy city attorneys, both are funded. One of them, however, some of that money is going to be used for the salary for the chief assistant city attorney. So again, you can already see that that's not going to be enough. So the 9.6% is a very conservative number. We are actively recruiting for that remaining deputy city attorney. And then there are 5 staff members. When you look at it in the more traditional organizational chart format, that's what you see. Again, the chief assistant I've placed in yellow because part of that salary will be coming from the funded deputy city attorney position. The assistant city attorney is in red because it is unfunded. You may recall that that position was unfunded but left in the complement last year when I indicated that my retirement was imminent. I felt, and I believe the council also agreed, that it would be better for the incoming city attorney to decide what to do with that assistant city attorney. I would tell you that you need 4 attorneys in addition to the city attorney. Whether that's 1 assistant city attorney and 3 deputies or 4 deputies, that's for the next person to decide. But right now, that assistant city attorney is unfunded. You have 2 currently within the city attorney's office. And the other deputy city attorney, although he is in my office and he is in the complement for the city attorney's office, he is paid from the water department, which is an enterprise fund. So again, the 9.6% is a number that, again, is a little on the low side. We do have 5 staff members, and I can tell you I think it's one of the best staffs that the city attorney's office has ever had. So we rely heavily on outside counsel, and that's going to become pretty apparent here shortly. This slide, again, a very common slide. You can see when you compare our office to the other top 10 cities in California and some of our sister cities, we are down to 4. That would be myself, and that would be the 3 deputies within the office right now. Again, one of them primarily exclusive to water. I oftentimes come before you and I say that we're lean and mean, but we are down to the bone. In fact, I would tell you that we're into the bone now. I mean, we're minus an appendage. I'm not sure you could go any less than what we've had. And that is why we rely heavily on outside counsel. You know that you are under contract with Clifford & Brown through 2030, under contract with Marta Rosian and Cohen through 2030. We do have a yearly contract with Duane Morris to deal with our water issues. I believe that a new contract will be coming forward for your consideration before the end of this budget year. And now what we're seeing, though, is we're seeing additional contracts with other outside counsel. So we do have one with Duane Morris in addition to the water to help us with the general plan. And we're using other outside counsel to help us in areas that, frankly, we used to handle in-house. We're dealing with outside counsel now for short-term rentals, for CEQA, for the Mills Act, for Prop 218, for eminent domain, for some of our economic and community development issues such as the land trust, and for labor. And so I think, again, when you go into the next fiscal year and you are with your next city attorney, that's one of the bigger issues I think this council is going to have a discussion with, right? It's a balancing act. How much do you really handle in-house with your deputies, and how much do you utilize and rely on outside counsel? There are pros and cons to each approach, but that's probably something that you're going to be hearing a little bit more of as the year progresses. Again, we are very fortunate to have our contracts with outside counsel, particularly that of Clifford & Brown and Marta Rosian and Cohen. I mean, just take a look at this chart. It kind of goes hand in hand to what Gina Covey just mentioned to you. Incoming lawsuits alone. These are just incoming. You look at 2021, there's about 20. It's doubled in 4 or 5 years. And remember, when you have the 42 in this year, the others don't go away. I mean, you're handling the 42 as well as all of the others that have happened in the preceding year. And we are doing an excellent job of disposing of cases, but it is very much within the standard practice of the industry to have a case that goes anywhere between 3 and 5 years. So we're handling all of the red and all of the blue that you can see on there. A little bit of a pie chart here to show you what we're dealing with. Again, when you look at single category lawsuits, by far the largest is motor vehicle. And the next largest single category, I would say to you, is slip and falls. Miscellaneous contains a lot of other items. Some of those items, too, are items in which we, the City of Bakersfield, are the plaintiff. So I would say to you, we really want to concentrate on those items in red and those items in green. And I think, again, Councilmember Gonzalez asked an appropriate, valid question as to, what do we really do to cut that pie in half? You cut that pie in half, and you've got a different story in front of you. Despite that, again, our outside counsel in terms of litigation has done a tremendous job. They have closed 6 cases, 4 with no money. State, they've closed 25, 13 without any monies. But I wish I could stand up here and tell you it's been a great year, but it's been a brutal year. You all know it's been a brutal year. We've had 3 cases that we've had to settle for over $1 million. 2 of them were over $15 million. And yes, insurance paid for those cases, but what you don't see on the chart, and what I can't explain to you, not because I'm unable to explain to you, but it's an unknown, which is it's disappointing. And we don't know when we pay that kind of money what that secondary collateral impact is going to be. Are you going to have the same insurance rates from here on out? What are those premiums? You already heard Gina and the city manager tell you that the premiums have skyrocketed. Well, it's probably no doubt it's because of the number of motor vehicle cases, the number of trip and falls, and the fact that we had to settle 2 cases well over $15 million, and there wasn't much of a defense. So that's not something that I relish coming up here and telling you, but it's the truth. Department highlights, you're looking at 184 active litigation matters that our office handles right now. That is by far the most that the City Attorney's Office has ever handled in the history of the City of Bakersfield. Yes, we are handling some of them in-house, but the weight of those 184 litigation matters, that has an impact internally to our office. Even though we rely heavily on outside counsel, we are handling some of our own in-house that we realize have nothing to do with the City of Bakersfield. I cannot tell you how many times we have been sued for accidents because of GetBus, even though we have absolutely nothing to do with GetBus. We get lawsuits from attorneys in LA that think that the city of Lancaster is somehow associated with the city of Bakersfield. Those types of cases, my deputies and myself, we handle. But that weight of the 184 and that weight of nothing is an accident anymore, it's always a lottery ticket, is impacting your city attorney's office. That's more monitoring that we need to do. That's more invoices, cost invoices that we need to process. That means there's more work for finance department to do because, again, there's more paperwork associated with that. And again, at the bottom line, I get back to that balancing act, but that means there's more work for the deputies to do with litigation than with your municipal issues, which I would tell you from my perspective and being your city attorney, that's where your priority is. That's where it should be. But it's those municipal issues that we are struggling, frankly, to keep up with because of the weight of those litigated matters. So again, the slide is there. I think you have a better feel now for that slide. I'm not sure, again, I know that that increase of 9.6 is accurate, but I think it should be a much higher number. And when you look at the changes between last year and coming up, again, that chief assistant city attorney really needs to be funded. I understand that one of the funded deputy city attorney salaries will be going to that, but that simply is not enough. That needs to be increased. The unfunded assistant city attorney position eventually is going to come back to you, and I would suggest probably needs to be funded. And we are actively recruiting not only for the chief assistant city attorney, but we are actively recruiting for that one remaining vacant deputy city attorney 2 position. So with that, we're going to try to continue that litigation posture as much as possible. Maintain those municipal services. Where necessary, we will continue to use outside counsel, handle what we can in-house, and continue to recruit for that vacant DCA position. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gennaro. Thank you for a very clear report. And it's always reassuring to know that you have a city attorney and a team that is doing everything possible with such outstanding success. You can't control the things that you can't control, but you've been able to deliver with outstanding success. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Questions from the council? Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Gennaro, for your presentation, and I concur with the mayor. I think your department has been very effective in protecting the city, and I thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I did want to touch on a point that you made just a moment ago, because I do understand and am sensitive to the burdens of the department as it relates to the number of incoming cases. I am also mindful, though, that there are opportunities for us through your department to help us move the city as a whole forward. Number one is the short-term vacation rental ordinance, that we see that in full effect so that we can increase the TOT that the city currently receives. I think that's one key area. And then also the area of receivership, because I think that strategy has been proven very successful. And it's very strategic in that we're able to get a handle on some of these properties with property owners who are unresponsive, and allows us to, address the property, but also in turn help upgrade the neighborhood, and longer term reduces the number of calls for service among police and fire and flood ministries and other agencies that may respond, code enforcement, obviously. And I think overall could help us alleviate some of that pressure for other departments in the city overall. My question is, where are we with receivership? Do we have any active cases, and how can we expand that? I am concerned with some of the code enforcement actions that currently are pending and has required us to take action to remediate some sites, and as a result, we're putting liens on properties, but those are real dollars that are coming from our general fund today in order for us to clean up properties that the city doesn't even own. I think it seems unfair to the people of Bakersfield that we're having to take responsibility for these properties that are owned by private property owners. And my point is that the receivership program, I feel like, is a much more assertive approach and can help prevent some of those expenditures, but also helps get to the heart of some of these issues that are facing our community, certainly in Ward 2 and some of the more historic neighborhoods.
Mayor, Councilmember Gonzalez, with regard to the short-term rentals, my understanding is that staff is coming back to you. If it's not the May 13th meeting, it will be the second meeting in May. With regard to the receivership, couldn't agree with you more. And it would be, I would love, right, to have that deputy city attorney that I could just say, the old Mark Salvaggio, go be a rat on a Cheeto, and do that, right? Because I think that's what having the deputy city attorneys give you. It gives you the ability to do that and let them let their creativity run wild and do that. The receivership program has been a success. I believe that Deputy City Attorney Ashley Zambrano has worked with Phil Burns, and the two that have been filed have produced positive results for the city of Bakersfield. It's my understanding that we do not have any right now. When I say in the queue, I mean that have been filed with court. We have been working with the receiver, Mark Adams, to see if he'll take some of those additional properties on. But again, there's pros and cons with that, how much equity is in the property, et cetera. And that's where it really gets to to those creative ideas. But that is a priority in my office, yes.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilmember Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Nero, thank you very much for your presentation, and I really appreciate you showing that comparison to staffing, what other communities are doing. That really helps keep things in perspective. I'm real supportive of the outside counsel thing, and it's very easy to measure how well outside counsel is doing in the liability and the criminal kinds of cases, because it's win or lose, and we can tell. But I'm more concerned about what we're doing to make sure that we're getting our money's worth for the ones that are not in those kind of situations, like the ones that are consulting on water issues
Right.
and general plan issues and other things. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Sure. Mayor, Councilmember Coman, at this point, there isn't a metric system really, as you point out, to determine how well they're doing, win or lose. I will tell you that how I typically do it and how I look at those outside counsel firms is I deal with the department head. So if it's a labor issue, I'm dealing with HR. If it's with the general plan, I'm working with Phil, and I reach out to those department heads and say, look, what is your relationship with outside counsel? Are they coming to the city of Bakersfield? Do you have a relationship with them, a personal relationship with them that you would or did with a deputy city attorney in my office? And then ultimately the buck stops with me, right? And so when the issues finally get up to my level, I have to make that determination whether outside counsel is being more conservative than I would necessarily be, because that is one, in my opinion, of the disadvantages of relying on outside counsel. They provide you with the most conservative advice that they can, and that generally doesn't accomplish what the city council wants to do. So it's that level of just having multiple eyes on the topic and a personal relationship. And if the topic ends up, if the council passes that short-term rental agreement and you're happy with it, then hey, that's a plus for outside counsel. If you're not happy with it for whatever reason, then we need to reevaluate.
Okay, and thank you very much, and thank you for all your department is doing. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Councilmember Coleman. I don't see any other requests for this, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now moving on to Finance Department. Oh, I see you're trying to set the example with a decrease in budget. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, Mayor, council members. Taking the cue from what you hinted at, trying to be as brief as possible. As you can see, 4 slides. Hopefully that's as brief as I can
You win
get.
the prize.
So appreciate the opportunity to present the proposed budget for the Finance Department for the upcoming fiscal year. As you saw, as was mentioned earlier, this is the standard presentation we're showing every department. And this is our budget for next fiscal year. Compared to last, we anticipate or are proposing a budget of $5.5 million, broken down between those funding sources. As we talked about, every department was requested to reduce personnel budget, specifically in the general fund, by 5%. We were able to do that. What you do see is the general fund did increase, though, specifically because of 2 areas. Obviously, we had cost of living increases, but in addition to that, you'll see a reduction in the TRIP funds. What's happening there is the distribution of our staff has actually been increased to the general fund because that work from our staff has been reduced. So we're shifted some of those costs from TRIP to the general fund. So that offsetted some of the decreases that we saw from the staffing reductions. In addition to that, we did have a reduction in capital costs, specifically related to our purchasing department, that $30,000 reduction. We have the responsibility of purchasing copiers for all the departments, and there's been a significant reduction in the need for those. So we're continuing to reduce that number, and this year it's a $30,000 reduction for copier replacements for the upcoming fiscal year. So what you see here is about a 0.5% reduction from prior year in the general fund as a whole. All right. So as we see, we took to heart the need to reduce budget. So we have no new proposals for the department, no specific growth. We were actually able to reduce the budget by actually 6%. We met the 5% goal, reducing 2 positions, which I'll touch on in the next slide. In addition to that, we are moving forward with, as we move into next fiscal year, our plans are, we have no major CIP projects moving forward, and we will continue to move forward with the ERP implementation. So we've stood up and pretty much stabilized our ERP for the financials. We've helped stabilize the permitting system. And now we're moving forward with the HCM, or the payroll system, in the upcoming fiscal year. That is planned to be completed by the March of the 2027, so next fiscal year. In addition to that, we will move forward with the utility billing system. We also hope to complete that implementation by the end of this calendar year. So here you see our complement. As you see here in 25-26, we had an increase of 5 individuals. That was because we shifted the budget office and the ERP team. 5 individuals moved to the finance department. This year we reduced by that number by 2, amounting to about a $280,000 reduction in the general fund budget. A business analyst related to our ERP team, and we reduced the one treasury account specialist related to the work we do downstairs in the first floor of City Hall North. Again, resulting in a current complement of 35 individuals. So that is the budget. Before I move on, do you have any questions specifically related to finance budget?
Don't see any requests.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
we're going to move on to the next slide related to CalPERS. It was requested by council about a month and a half ago to go through the CalPERS contributions. And what we're showing here is based on the most recent actuarial reports from CalPERS and where we see our contributions and our costs for CalPERS going in the next, number of years, 25 years. So what you see here is over the next 5 years, we expect our costs to go up by $14 million in total, peaking in 2030-31 at $98 million. From that point down, we've shown this slide before. I'm sorry, I'll back up a little bit. The two amounts of costs related to our CalPERS are our unfunded actuarial determined liability, which is red, and then our normal cost, which is based on our current complement, which is blue. So what you see is by 2045, if CalPERS earns at what they're expected to earn, our unfunded liability would be reduced to 0, and our costs would go down by 47% from that peak in 2031. One of the things that we want to talk about, though, again, that's the expectation. We understand, we've talked about this before, CalPERS is supposed to earn 6.8% on its investments, and they've actually done pretty well. Last 3 years, they earned 9%, last year 11%, and then based on the current performance this year, they are expected to earn 12%. So they are meeting their requirements, and so based on that performance, we don't expect, over the next 2 years, we don't expect that peak to go up because they've been meeting their required earnings, and that's that discount rate, as it's called. I did want to touch on one thing, though. As we move forward into the next fiscal year, there are certain challenges to this. We've relied on that peak of 2031 of pension costs. If you're not aware, Assembly Bill 1383 has currently been passed by the Assembly and is in the Senate. And what that does is it reverses the Public Employee Pension Reform Act of 2013 for public safety employees. In essence, it increases, I should say, the cost by reducing the years, the peak year. It goes from, you can retire at 55 instead of 57 at the peak amount of 3% versus 2.7%. So they are reversing some of the PEPRA benefits, and that if it passes, that peak in 2031 will likely go away. So I just wanted to highlight that. It is a challenge that we foresee. Again, the legislature has to officially approve it. It passed one of the houses, and it is currently in front of the Senate for potential approval. So I wanted to talk about this. We've, again, shown this slide. We've said we have a light at the end of the tunnel, but that light may dim if the legislature continues in its current path. So that is my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm open for those.
Thank you, Mr. McKeegan. Questions? Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to follow up. There's been conversations in the past about the annual audits and the single audit, and just, are we getting there, or where are we at?
Yeah, we've talked about this at Budget Finance, as I still call it. So we were able to reach out. We have completed the late year of 2024 was completed and submitted, but the single audit is still being worked on by staff and specifically our auditor. One of in your upcoming council meeting, you will note that we are switching auditors. We have a new audit firm that is moving forward next year. So they will be taking over for the 25 fiscal year and 26. We have plans with them. We've worked with them on a really good timeline of what we can do to catch up. So we have in essence, we're going to combine our processes for 25 and 26 for things like the interim work so they can all be done and expedite that process. We anticipate that the 25 fiscal year audit can be done by the fall, so October is the plan that I see. They actually said it's potentially September, but I want to have reasonable expectations. So 2025, the 2025 fiscal year audit should be done by October, and then we anticipate that we will be caught up for 26. So the 26 audit should be done based on our current schedule by December, January. That's the normal timeline. And we, based on our conversations, we feel that we can catch up by 26 for the 26 year audit, which ends this fiscal June 30th of this year. We should be able to get back on track and actually complete that audit by the end of this calendar year.
And Mr.
So we'll be
McKeegan,
on track.
Thank you for that response, Randy. Could you also just highlight for council's benefit, because I don't think we've done that in a public setting, the fix to the reporting for capital assets that was needed in this last year, that we are now able to get all the information out of the system, that the delay on the ERB?
Sure. That is the reason for the delay in 2024. We talked about it in Budget and Finance. The resulting delay, the additional delay resulting from 2024 was caused by the ERP implementation. So what happened was we had anticipated that our fixed asset module would be in place in the new Oracle system. And what happened is it delayed, the system didn't properly convert all our assets. So we went back and forth with our implementer for about 3 to 4 months trying to get it right. And ultimately, I basically said we need to just get this done, so we had built a workaround to complete that audit and complete that fixed asset information. So that added delays because we had anticipated that fixed asset information to be properly put into the individual fiscal year for 2024, and it was not done, and it created significant delays just waiting on that implementation to be complete, which wasn't. It is complete now.
Thank you. Look forward to being caught up.
So do I.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. McKeegan. And now we move on to Recreation and Parks. Well, today we had people from the state and another group actually here talking about how we can get more funding for parks. And I saw some of your representatives out there this morning at that meeting. Thank you.
Absolutely, and that's
Welcome.
going to be a big part of our budget moving forward, Mayor. So good afternoon, Mayor, council members. Darren Budak, Recreation and Parks Director. As requested, I will move through these very quickly. And fortunately, or maybe unfortunately, some of the items that were discussed earlier when it comes to the rates and stuff compound on my budget in particular. We have a very large budget when it comes to personnel and stuff. So these costs, when it comes to fleet cost, workman's comp cost, all those things that are somewhat out of our control really hit our budget hard. One thing I do want to point out here is you'll notice on our first line item under personnel services, it shows a moderate increase, and that's even with us meeting the city manager's direction of reducing our budget, our staffing personnel, and I'll get into that in a little bit later. But the two big driving forces in our increase, you can see at 6.36%, is our capital outlay, our projects, and then also our operations cost. And as you can see, and it states here, you know, as already has been labored many times already, is these costs are being driven by things that I would say are outside of the department's control. Your fleet costs, your technical services, and all those things, we get told what those costs will be, and then we have to implement them into our budget. I can tell you, my staff and my department did a great job in providing a flat budget, but when you put these costs in there, then you see these costs. On the capital side, you can see we proposed 10 projects. We brought 10 projects forward, and working with city manager's office, 3 of them are currently on the recommended list, and then another 7 are up for council's consideration. And happy to answer any questions about those at the end. And then moving on, Our department, as you can see, topped out at 202 full-time employees. That's a very large department, takes a lot of staff to do the work that's going on out there in our parks and streetscapes. And in following direction, we did reduce our full-time complement, and we took a serious look at it, and we went from the top down. We looked at our upper-level supervisory positions all the way down to our entry level. One key thing I do want to point out is in this, well, there's a mistake there, my fault. We had a reduction of 6 positions. We have 5 general fund positions and 1 PSVS position as outlined there. Worth noting is that this is all happening in a time that this department is growing each and every year. We acquire anywhere from 5 to 10 new acres of streetscapes every single year because of new development. And City of Bakersfield is very developer friendly, and we encourage that, but every single one of those streetscapes, we get those, and we have to maintain them. And that's happened every single year for the last several years. So while we've maintained 202, our acreage over the last 3 to 4 years has increased anywhere from, I'll say, 20 to 35 acres in streetscapes. Now, this does not include the new parks, Linnell Brahma that was opened up a year and a half ago, Mesa Marin we just talked about. We have 3 new parks that are in design right now, Anton Giovanni, Herschel Moore, and Alondra Park. So those are all parks that are going to come online in some phase in the next 2 to 3 years. So I think that's going to be a challenge moving forward. As you see, our acreage is increasing and staffing is reducing. So it's going to have a compounding effect on our level of service moving forward. But as we always do in Parks and Recreation, I do want to celebrate the wins we've had in the last year. My staff has done a phenomenal job in being stewards of the money that we are provided to do these projects. And you can see just in some of these pictures, this is Centennial Park rehab, taking it from an unusable condition to a state-of-the-art pickleball and tennis court facility. So some others, another great win through one of the grants, as you were talking about, Mayor, was one of these Arts in Parks that we did over there at Saunders, and took what was a very attractive wall for graffiti at one point and turned it into an art for the city and the residents, and it's been very well received. And last but or latest, but this one's been a long time coming. Jastrow Park Stage has been on the plans for several years because of various requirements with historic and funding and stuff. We finally pulled it together. Thank you to the City Council, Councilman Gonzalez, for pushing so hard on that. And look at it now. It's been restored. It's being used. I know we've already had multiple concerts out there, and it's been a great success for that park and in re-inviting the community and getting those positive activities back in the area. And then this one was a unique opportunity for us to collaborate with the BLNC down there. When they first opened that facility, they had a lot of open space and encouraging people to go out and use the space. But as we found out very quickly, as we know in recreation and parks, that's nice in the spring and summer, but or in the fall, when summer hits, these outside areas need shade. So we were able to partner with them and get in there and provide these shade structures over these areas, which allow them to be used year round. I could keep going. Jefferson Park. Total remodel, well, actually replaced the entire bathroom there, made it ADA compliant. Just a great improvement up there. And then Stern Park was a unique one where we actually went in, and this is first time in a very long time where we put in a new restroom facility into a park that did not have one, but because of the use and a local group, the Stern Walking Group, it was sought after. It's been on a plan for several years, and we were able to finally pull it together, and it was very well received. And then just some ADA accomplishments we've done throughout the year, as you can see throughout our parks. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Budak. And then just speaking of ADA and special needs, I have received so many positive compliments about Wilson Park and the fencing that goes around that area now that provides families with children who are autistic and with special needs, the safety, the security, in a really beautiful setting. So thank you to your entire team. This came about when I got an email, and the person said to me, I didn't think you'd ever do anything about it, but sent it on to you all, and you all did something very, very wonderful, and the community is extremely grateful for that. So thank you. I was able to note that this morning in the presentation with the state office.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now on to Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Budek, for your presentation, and thank you to your department for all the wonderful work you guys do day in and day out for our city. Parks really make our city a community. That's what really brings people together, these public spaces, and we're seeing it time and time again. And I appreciate Jastrow Park improvement. That was a long time coming. Decades of disrepair, and it looks beautiful. We just had a concert there, actually 3 concerts over the last 3 Sundays in April after Easter. And last one, we had over 500 people at Jastrow Park on a Sunday afternoon, people picnicking, people on what looked like first dates, people at barbecues, and it was just wonderful to see all the families utilizing the park and being very positive. And I believe parks actually do contribute to public safety, because not only does it allow for more people to come into spaces that are large and fill in with positive activity, but it also gives youth an opportunity to engage in positive ways, get their energy out, and also there's a lot to be said about the effects of mental health, the positive effects that green spaces provide. So I want to thank you for your work. Just one anecdote, at Lowell Park, there was a softball field that was, I felt, underutilized for quite some time, and we were able to convert that into a soccer field. And I was getting a little concerned because I hadn't seen anybody really use it. But this last weekend, as I was going by, I noticed kids actually playing soccer in the park. And that really warmed my heart, because that is exactly what we're trying to do, get more people to utilize our spaces in better ways. So I want to thank you again. A couple questions. Under personnel services, what percentage of the personnel service expenditures are the park rangers?
Percentage of ours?
Yeah, do we know what the cost is for park rangers annually?
I don't have the cost breakout percentage-wise.
Okay. I'm wondering if, as we prepare the final budget, if we can differentiate the personnel costs related to park rangers from all other personnel costs in the budget.
Specific to this department, I assume.
Correct.
Yes, we can do that.
Yeah. All right. And then as I look at the requested items, recommended projects, I noticed that the park amenities and renovation improvements, the PARI account, staff is recommending $500,000. And then as we look at the projects to consider, I imagine these are projects pending any type of budget opportunity or opportunities in the discretionary fund, Mr. Clegg? How would we decide if we should fund some of these projects? We're experiencing a flat budget this year.
Yeah, indeed. So as I noted earlier today, on your May 18th, we will tee up a summary of what is available for capital projects. We will also list out what are the recommended and the optional projects, and then it will come to council could provide some direction even at that time on May 18th, or following your budget public hearing in June. You can provide direction about which of those projects to include, or I would recommend to the council, we don't have to do the optional projects. We can also decide to wait and forego those projects and wait to future years and bank some additional one-time monies just as savings. That's another option. But those decisions will come May 18th and in the June budget adoption.
Okay, great. So are the PARI expenditures, are those in response to destruction of park equipment or things that we have to repair, or are those enhanced features that we're installing?
It's a mix. I'll let Mr. Budak outline that.
Yeah, so as a matter of fact, I can say the two projects that was brought up by the mayor and yourself were both done out of the PARI. The soccer field at Lowell was part of the PARI money. We used that. And then the pilot project for the autism fence at Wilson Park was done out of that PARI. But to answer your question, yes, it is a mix. Sometimes we will get big vandalism done to a park where they'll go in, off the top of my head, where they'll strip the copper out of our security lighting and stuff. We'll go back and we'll use PARI. Or we'll also use it in addition to when we're doing some of these other playground rehabs. We will come in there and supplement, maybe add some additional sidewalk to some amenities and or shade. So it is a mix.
Got it. And I'm headed somewhere with these questions. So what percentage of the PARI account is used to address vandalism issues?
I can't give you an exact percentage, but I would say probably at least a third of it.
Okay. So 150,000 perhaps in this $500,000 allocation is used just to respond to vandalism.
That would be fair.
Okay. What I'd like us to consider, if possible, with staff analyzing this request, is that we reduce the PARI amount this upcoming year, but we actually create some room for one of the items for council to consider related to the park security cameras, so that we can perhaps prevent some of this vandalism in the future, and perhaps overall reduce the expenses related to vandalism in some of our parks. Okay, thank you.
And now Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say to the Wilson Park, I've gotten feedback on also, and the ability for schools and parks to start to work together is a great opportunity, and just the history of the frustration of people saying, hey, you know, that school's empty all the time, or that park, you know, work together. So that's great to start that and to move forward in different areas. I also like to bring up Riverwalk Park. Some years ago, I said, oh, no, we can wait on that. And it turned out being, I don't know, felt like 5 years instead of 1 year. So great to see that work being done, and look forward to it being finished. On the funding sources, I don't see a separate for the maintenance district funds. Are those just included in general fund, or where's that?
Yeah, they're included in our overall budget.
But you've got funding sources and different sources. So which source are they actually in?
Just under the general fund tab.
Okay. And then we've had a lot of community input on the tree planting, urban canopy, and I see you show that. And also the input on trimming trees less. Are we cutting our tree budget, or where are we at on that?
No, we are not cutting our tree. We have an annual contract in our operating for tree trimming, and we're not reducing that. Now we're trying to reallocate and come up with a trimming cycle that will help reduce that. This was our first year working with TAG, and we're evaluating with what I'll say the new standard of our trimming during certain times of the year. So this was our first year, but we're hopeful that we will be able to reduce that cycle in the coming years in different locations on different species throughout the city.
So but the recommendation was that we trimmed them too often, not just the time of year. I mean, it was both. So, you know, instead of every year, every 2 years, whatever it was, every 5 years. So we're still studying that, or where are we at on that?
Yeah, we're just in the first year looking at that. We started that process, I'll say in August of last year when we got outside of the nesting season. And so we looked at that, and we're going to, through our annual contractor and then our tree division, we are hopefully we'll have a recommendation early next year to say, okay, here's the new cycle. We're going to be on a 2-year in this area with these trees, depending on maturity and location, types of trees, streetscapes versus parks. You know, there's a lot of different things, elements that go into that. But yeah,
Right.
our goal is to reduce it. But in this current budget year, we did not, because we didn't know where we were going to be at.
Okay.
And we were hopeful with the tree inventory, we're going to get to that someday.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. I don't see any other requests, so thank you, Mr. Budak. And now we'll move on to the police department. And colleagues, we do not have a PowerPoint printout on this in case you're looking for it. Well, welcome, Chief Stratton. We can say Chief.
Thank you.
Let's ask him some very hard questions for his first one.
If I get any grace to blame Chief Terry for things for a little bit, I'm hoping. But thank you for the opportunity to be here today and discuss the proposed budget for fiscal year 26 and 27. While she's working on bringing up the presentation, as we were sitting here, thankfully we have Ariam who's crunching extra numbers, and so we updated the presentation while we were seated. But in taking a look at what we were working to do this year, we worked on making sure that we had still 3 core priorities. We wanted to ensure that we were able to preserve essential public safety operations that provide for the immediate protection of life, property, and community safety. We wanted to ensure that we were sustaining proactive and evidence-based crime prevention strategies and sound management practices to ensure that accountability and measurable public safety outcomes. And we were wanting to identify reductions in lower impact or non-core functions while seeking to minimize the adverse effects on vital services and community trust. So it was actually a really good exercise for us to be able to look at where we could find efficiencies and where we might be able to ensure that we were being as efficient and as effective as we could be, and that we're being good stewards of taxpayer dollars. We were able to identify some areas for some reductions, and we were able to make a significant amount of reductions in personnel. In looking at some of our personnel reductions, we looked at areas where we could reclassify positions, areas where we were utilizing positions like we'd like. We see some potential for technology coming in the next few years, which will allow us to make realize some additional efficiencies. We were able to look at where we could reduce some of our overtime and callback, in trying to be more efficient with our overtime budget. We were able to make some cuts in some outside services as well as some equipment. We were able to expand our school resource officer program, which will offset some funds, some salaries that are being paid by the school districts. And then we're looking at the expansion of our Red Flex program to ensure traffic safety. We think that has the potential to offset some of our financial costs as well. Even with making all those cuts and trying to project out what we believe some of the growth can be, we were able to make a 5%, what we thought was a 5% reduction in some of those areas. It still results in approximately 2.39% increase in overall expenditure. And breaking those down in 2 separate areas, the first is in salaries and benefits. Even though we were able to make as many of the cuts and the efficiencies as I previously described, with increases in medical insurance and workers' compensation, as well as with PERS contributions, we're still seeing an increase of approximately 2.78%. And then we saw a 1.05% increase in our operating expenses, as it relates to some of our service rates for vehicles and technologies. Again, arriving at an overall increase of 2.39%. to our budget. We think that, just looking ahead over the next couple of years, as we've been able to implement our real-time information center and just getting that started, we anticipate that there will be growth there as we look at, drone as a first responder and things like that over the next couple of years, and where a lot of agencies are going and where we think technology is taking us. We do think that there's an opportunity for additional efficiencies and looking for additional savings moving forward. And as I start to kind of wrap my arms around the department a little bit more, and from the handoff with Chief Terry, I'm interested in seeing where some of those other efficiencies may lie. So that is the presentation that we have here, and I'm happy to do the very best that I can to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Chief. That was the shortest presentation ever, I think.
I think so.
Colleagues, any questions? Councilmember Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, Chief, congratulations on your selection and appointment as chief. And I think the city is going to be great with you in charge.
Thank you, sir. Try not to let you down.
I wanted to ask you about where you are in terms of what, compared to your full complement, where are you at with staffing?
Yeah, I don't know off the exact top of my head. Our complement coming into this year is 512. I want to say we were probably close to about 470. We have 35 that were in the academy right now, and those count towards our overall complement, even though they're not realized actual officers on the street. So we always have a little bit of a gap there. But I would want to say we're probably close to about 94, 95% staffed. Over the last couple of weeks, we have had, we're in a constant state of attrition. Every year I've got, 14 years worth of data that says we lose somewhere between 25 and 30 people a year, just for a variety of different reasons. And that's right about where we're trending towards this year as well. So I don't have the exact number off my head, but I want to say we're in that 460 to 470 range, something like that. This last academy that graduated, I believe in December, they're on field training. They should be coming off of field training here in the next week or two. And so that's going to, be able to increase the number of officers on the street by a number 20 or 25. The academy that we just started in March, they won't graduate until October. By the time they get off field training, it'll be the early part of 2027 before they're really able to be handling calls for service and being able to help. So we'll have a little bit of a gap in that time frame, but we're doing okay.
So what are your priorities for the coming year as far as enforcement
I think
priorities?
They'll be very similar to where we are and what we've been doing. Want to just be as open as we can and as flexible as we can to handling problems and things as they come up and they arise. It's great to have some plans and some ideas, but things can change operationally depending on the issues that arise. So I want to just continue to do the very best that we can to solve problems, and looking at long-term chronic problems that we're having there. How can we build relationships and partnerships within our community to try to solve those long-term chronic problems that are arising. I want to continue to focus on our gun violence reduction strategy. And as we've focused on that gun violence reduction strategy, I see that model works. So we're being able to use some of the CalVIP grant funds that have come up to be able to study intimate partner violence. Been doing some studies over the last couple of years and working with Stanford as well as some other groups to be able to look at, are there other things that we can do and look at, not necessarily as a predictor of violence, but look at some of our past for intimate partner violence and seeing if we can bring some overall reductions in that area. Been partnering with the Open Door Network to take a look at some of those areas too. And I think that there's a real potential that we might be able to bring some reductions in intimate partner violence. I want to continue to look at roadway safety and ensuring that our roads are safe. I'm excited about the expansion of the Red Flex program. I think that has the potential to continue to calm some of our roadways. There's some additional areas as it relates to traffic. There's some interesting technology that's out there that we're looking at through like the international associations, the chief of police. I don't know that California law is caught up with it and is going to allow for some of the AI-based traffic cameras and things. But it'll be interesting to see, you know, where the laws go with that in the next couple of years as technology develops. But I think our real-time information center will have the ability to help us maybe with some of the traffic calming stuff as well. So that's absolutely something I want to continue to focus on as we get closer up to complement, and as the school resource officer program has shown to be effective, we have more school districts that are coming online. I like the idea behind that too. I think it provides for a safe and a secure school environment, and the chance that the unthinkable could happen. But it also creates an opportunity for positive working relationships and mentorship with kids, and so I like to see that potential growth as well. So those are some of the things that are on the forefront of my mind, but ensuring that we have strong patrol staffing, that we're responsive to be able to meet the immediate needs of any corner of the city of Bakersfield is going to continue to be a priority for our department.
Thank you. You mentioned the school resource officer, and that reminded me, I wanted to thank you for the work Captain Kroger has done to respond to demands in the Harris Road area after the last accident. He's mobilized some officers that do a little bit maximum enforcement kind of things on the Harris Road, and also is working with the resource officer from the schools there. Apparently they share them now to try to make sure that they're deployed in the areas they need to be during the school in and out time. So I want to thank you for allowing him to do that and giving him the resources he needs.
Just on that note, yes. So Captain Kirker is the captain over our traffic, over many things, but traffic is one of the areas there, and we do have officers in that area. I believe is the Panama Buena Vista School District, and we've been able to grow within the Panama Buena Vista School District. That partnership that we've had with that district has been exceptional, and they've. I believe we're at 2, if not 3 officers that they're funding, and so being able to share them amongst the school districts has been very, very helpful. So hope to continue to see growth, but a big partnership with Panama Buena Vista, and they've been fantastic partners.
One last question. One of the complaints I get a lot is the people that are panhandling in the median of the streets all over town. And I go to a lot of communities in California, and I don't see that everywhere. And I was wondering if you could talk about that a little bit, about what might be able to be done about that.
Yeah, has been a variety of different enforcement options and things that we've looked at for quite some time. We've spoken with the traffic judge as well to gain an understanding about them, and we have different medians that are positioned differently within our city, and I'll have to get myself completely refreshed back up with it, but I recall that in certain areas where there's a narrow median, and the first one that comes to mind is at California and Oak. If you can envision the median there at California and Oak, and that median is very narrow. The traffic judge told us that how they see it as that median is almost extending upward and upward into the sky. And so in a median like that, they see that a person is potentially in danger, could be impeding traffic. And though that's a median that they agree would be enforceable. In some of the other medians where there's more area and there's more space, they don't see that as necessarily being a median that is as enforceable. So it's not really a black and white enforcement issue. It does require a little bit of a critical thinking and some focus for our officers, but there is absolute enforcement that can be done. There are citations that can be issued. It's not an arrestable offense. It's not a bookable offense, but there are citations that can be issued. And I think, there's a variety of different opinions about the overall effectiveness of whether a person that's issued a traffic citation is going to show up to court and pay a traffic citation or not. So there are steps that can be taken. I don't know the overall long-term effectiveness of it, but it's absolutely things that we can continue to explore and work towards and have a proactive stance towards.
Thank you, Chief. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Councilmember Coleman. Just following up on that same line of questioning about the medians, you mentioned the traffic court judge.
Yes.
Is that the local one? I know
Yes.
that Mayor Dyer in Fresno has talked about not allowing anyone on the medians, and they go after them right away. So is it a local interpretation?
No, I believe it's the vehicle code, and I think that vehicle code is a statewide vehicle code. Again, I don't know necessarily what the medians are looking like in Fresno as opposed to what they look like here, but our court's interpretation is that it does vary depending on how the layout of that median looks, and so it's something I can delve a little deeper into and make sure I'm a little more firm on my understanding on, and something I'm happy to be able to bring back and speak about.
Thank you, Chief. I get many queries about that issue. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple things. Appreciate your focus on traffic calming and doing what we can. We continue to lose too many lives on the streets of Bakersfield. There are cities that I think the state is having to pilot speed cameras. So that'd be nice if the state would move forward with
That's
that.
kind of what I was referring
Right.
to when I talked about some of the laws haven't really caught up with some of the emerging technology that's out there, but I would anticipate that in the next couple of years as that technology becomes a little more prevalent, it would almost be a very similar principle to we have with Redflex cameras, but there's some technology that's being piloted as it relates to stop sign enforcement, as it relates to crosswalk infringement and general speed cameras and things like that. Again, it's not something that the state has, but there's other states that are doing it, and the technology is certainly out there. So I think that's in something that will be coming towards our state in the next few years.
Right, I appreciate that. And the number of red light citations that we give a year is astronomical. I just can't believe it.
And
so-
I anticipate you're going to see an explosion of it this next year, as we're essentially doubling the amount of cameras that we have within our city, and it's probably still it's still not enough. And so we're looking at a phased in approach. Let's put in this next phase and see where it takes us. But I would anticipate that there's still going to be additional room. There's room for additional growth in that regard, and we're trying to take a look at where the collisions are occurring and where these intersections are occurring, and can we make them safer. Interestingly enough, that sometimes red light cameras increase the number of collisions, but generally they're rear end collisions
Not
they're not fatal.
fatalities.
They're
Right.
being big reductions in those broadside head-on collisions, which are the things that bring fatalities. But you do see people slamming on the brakes and slowing down, and so you get an increase in some of the rear end collisions. Those cause me less concern. Obviously, we're really trying to save lives. And
Right.
so if we can bring a reduction in those broadside and head-on collisions, that's where a big portion where our effort lies.
Appreciate that attitude. I think that's all I had. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Councilmember Coleman. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to dovetail off this. First and foremost, congratulations, Chief.
Thank you,
and,
sir.
Excited to see you at the helm.
Thank you.
And looking forward to working with you.
Same.
On Councilmember Smith's point, the red light cameras I feel are effective. There's so many times where I'm at a red light and I, as a rule, wait like 3 seconds before I proceed to enter the intersection upon a green, because I don't know how many times now there's been a car that's been, running that red and would have, T-boned me. And so every time I'm in Uber or Lyft, I always gently remind the driver, hey, just be sure to take a few seconds.
Take an extra couple seconds.
When you're out and about, because I want to try to help encourage people to be a defensive driver.
That's right.
And so I really appreciate that. But also, the traffic enforcement, the motorcycles that we've deployed, I think have been really effective. And
Agreed.
You may not be prepared today, but I would love to see over a longer period of time what the trends are as a result of those investments.
Sure.
And I think that'll help us kind of paint a bigger picture of what we can do moving forward and how this council might be more strategic moving forward. The other thing that comes to mind is that, when in 2018 we were discussing PSVS, and we did a lot of analysis of other jurisdictions and what the police complements look like in comparable cities. And we often looked at a number of officers per capita because we recognize that some communities are much larger, some smaller. But that's really eye-opening for many of us, and really helpful for the community to kind of understand what we have and how we compare. I'm wondering if in the future, I know there's a lot of demands on your time as you've entered this position, but in the future, if we might be able to analyze that comparison as a council and help guide some of our future decisions related to the budget.
Yes, and something I've done kind of informally on my own. I've looked at the top 20 cities and reached out to those police chiefs to get what their complement is and look at some of those things. We're definitely we're on the leaner end. You look at a city like Oakland, which is smaller than us geographically, which only has maybe 6,000 or 10,000 more people and has, 300 more police officers. The city of Fresno has almost double the complement of police officers that we have, and I don't know that they're double the size of our city. In some of these areas, we are covering more areas geographically. Our city is continuing to grow, and we do believe that our police force is lean. We believe we have the tools and the resources that we need to be able to respond to our city, but it means that we're able to spend less time focused in on certain areas, and you're constantly just trying to get to something, respond, bring some calm to it, restore it to its homeostasis, and then be able to get on. And so I do believe that our complement at some point, when we can get to that growth within our city, and whenever we can get to a spot where we're being good stewards economically, that we can move towards a more structured growth. But I do believe that would be in order.
Homeostasis, that's the first time I've heard that in the council chambers. That's great. I love that word. But I appreciate you, and also just want to say thank you to the Impact team and for all of the work that they do fantastic folks do every single day. I work with them, I feel like, daily, and that includes the weekends, and they're just completely responsive, and it's very much appreciated in Ward 2, and all of the business owners and homeowners who rely on in the Impact team to resolve many of the issues that we're facing. So thank you so much to them.
Well, thank you for saying that. I really appreciate the Impact team too, but I'd be remiss if I didn't give a lot of credit to the entire Community Vitality program. And there's people from across the entire city that are all working towards that, and I've really been proud over the last couple of years that the city has been able to take a more holistic and comprehensive approach at kind of looking at the entire city ecosystem and how we're able to operate and move within there. So I think it's a really great program. I'm hopeful that we're able to see some improvement as far as long-term effectiveness goes, but being able to get to there and be able to get to an initial response, I'm very, very pleased with where that's at.
Thank you. And now, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Chief Stratton.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. One, welcome and congratulations on your first budget workshop.
Thank you.
Just
first
throwing
day.
You right into
first
the
day.
deep end. So, you get to say that your first day starts with a budget hearing.
That's right.
So
like every police officer's dream.
Yes, exactly. I'm sure this is exactly how you dreamt it up to be.
That's what I've always wanted to be.
Well, I wanted to join in on just sharing that even before today, you've always had a traffic calming oriented approach to how we make our streets safer. And just on the heels of the accident that happened in Ward 7, us folks, Councilmember Smith, Councilmember Coleman, Councilmember Bashir Tosh, have really been putting our heads together as to how we come up with solutions that aren't just incident-based and responsive, and in our conversations with the neighbors in and around the area, and looking to get the school district involved in the conversation. One, of course, accountability being with us residents and constituents and everyday citizens who are on the roads, but also how do we as a city ensure that we meet our end of the responsibility with, one, how we design our streets, and then two, how we enforce. And it kind of being, at least what I shared with neighbors is, it's not just a one size fits all. It is two things can be true at the same time, while also needing like a multi-pronged approach as to how we truly make streets safer. And I feel in this moment that Harris Road example, and a very tragic example, can be utilized for us at the city to design a system of not only response but also prevention, and that being, police department as well as public works, sitting at the table together, and that being kind of the system of how we operate. It is the design of the road, while also knowing that you all are already doing targeted enforcement in these high-risk corridors. And I think while the neighbors were not surprised by, how many accidents happen on that corridor, for some of us, a Harris Road might not be the first street that comes to mind. It might be a Panama Lane or White Lane. Right. So just some initial thoughts, but also if within a budget hearing like today, we can also, as a city, start thinking through what is a system of whether it's shared resources, shared dollars across two departments, or maybe you're already thinking of some like cross collaboration. Just wanted to put that out there, and knowing that you do your own research on your own and have shared different ideas in the past, especially in places like Ward 7 where cyclist accidents and pedestrian accidents have been, one of the reasons why I've called you many times, and you've been incredibly helpful with that and coming up with ideas. Just wanted to use this as an opportunity to brainstorm and kind of see if you had ideas as well.
Love it. Thank you. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the council because you may not know it, but each of you have shaped and challenged my own thought process as it relates to traffic. I have a very operational-based background in gangs and SWAT and homicide. I didn't work traffic coming up, so it's not something that I have this firsthand close understanding of. And so in working with you over the last couple of years, each of you have talked about traffic safety and the technology that's coming with cars and vehicles, and I've thought through that, and you've talked to me about just speeds and narrowing roads and a variety of different things. And so in some of my own research and things that I've done, I've really kind of distilled down our approach to kind of our 3 E's. We look at our education, environment, and enforcement. And oftentimes the police department is really only enforcement based, and that's really where my head has been limited to, quite frankly. But as we've looked at the gun violence reduction strategy and figuring out how can we look at things from a more systems based approach, it's something that I'm very interested in. So I don't stand here before you today and have the answers to it, but collaboration is something I'm absolutely dedicated to, and I know that there's a variety of different big brains that I'd like to be able to tap into, and some best practices from across the country and things that we can try to implement here. We're totally open to those things because our end state is what we are holding tight to, and our end state is to bring a reduction in fatalities and making sure that year over year we're bringing reductions. And to that note, we have. In the last couple of years, we are seeing reductions. I want more, and I want more reductions. We're not going to take our foot off the gas. We're going to continue pushing towards that. But it is absolutely something we're open to. We want to continue to look at what enforcement and what education can look like, and we're open to ideas. So if you all have ideas of ways of things that you think the police department can be doing, we're open to any and all of those things to try to bring some reductions. But you're right, Harris Road is not something that would have come to my mind. I would have told you Panama Lane, and I think the data would support that. I'd have told you White Lane, and I think the data would have supported that as well. And that's what led us to some of the locations as it relates to our Redflex cameras and where we're putting cameras as well to try to bring some of those reductions. But it just shows that these things can happen anywhere. I do think that some of the street racing and things like that, it's very transient in nature, and not transient in this sense that where we talk about transients and homelessness, but it really moves around. We are seeing areas out of Mesa Marin and kind of you're going to see it on some of the outer portions of town, but something like this, it becomes pretty central, and you look geographically now, and Harris Road is kind of central to our map and our area. So open to ways that we can do it. We want to be reflexive, responsive, and the ability to be able to move around to be as effective as we can.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Chief, oftentimes when there are accidents, the public calls for stoplights instead, streetlights and stoplights instead of stop signs. Can you comment a little bit about the effect, what the data says about those? I heard some conversation, I think, in the police department about the efficacy of stop signs as compared with stoplights.
Interesting. I don't have any of that information. I don't know it off the top of my head. Totally open to those. And again, that's something that I need to get more educated on myself is quite frankly, from an enforcement standpoint, it's like, okay, there's a stop sign and here's the code when you run a stop sign and here's the vehicle code for that. When you run a stoplight, here's the vehicle code for that. And when you run a stop light, if there's a traffic camera, here's the vehicle code for that. And that's really been very reactive and enforcement based throughout the entirety of my career on it. It's really only been the last year or so, last year or two of working with you all, as this become a focus of the council. It's becoming more of a focus of my own to be able to look at some of those things. So I definitely think it's worth looking at. And we work really closely with traffic engineering within the city, and so we rely on them for their expertise too as to what the standards are. And I don't know what they are as to when a stop sign is put up versus when a stop light is put up. But these are conversations as we're having closer partnerships with the schools, and the school districts are asking questions about what can be put up and when speed bumps can be put up. And I've got several different, I always stop and talk with crossing guards and stop and just chat with them. And they have some amazing horror stories about the things that they see every day. And so, we want to make sure that we're trying to do the very best that we can to prioritize school district enforcement and working with the Kern High School District to see if they're able to maximize enforcement in some of their areas, their schools as well. And so, all definite options for trying to bring some improvement and ensure that we're safe everywhere. But certainly some of the school zones would be some of the highest priorities for me and just in my heart. And in the morning and in the afternoons, ensuring that our children are able to get to and from school in a safe manner. And I do think that high visibility traffic based enforcement is going to be a component of that.
Thank you, Chief. If I understood the conversation correctly, stop signs might even be more effective in certain situations because everybody has to come to a stop. So I was just curious about that. But thank you so much for your presentation. I don't see any other requests to speak, so thank you for that. And now we move on to our last presentation of this session, and that would be fire. Chiefs, thank you so much for their successful fire department open house. It seemed like the public was very engaged. I heard a lot of appreciation expressed by families who were there. They really seemed to enjoy that, and a good turnout even earlier in the day maybe than in past years.
Yeah, it was actually a great turnout. Wonderful Saturday. Couple hours well spent. We're guessing anywhere between 500 and 800. It's hard to count, but we're incredible opportunity to demonstrate what our department does. Our partners with PD and Parks with their Ranger program were there. We had Cal Water, PG&E, so a little bit of everything there, and everybody got an opportunity to come out and enjoy a great day, go through a couple water events, see us rappel and tear up a car, and learn about the fire service. We love talking about the fire service, so it was great for us. So Honorable Mayor, Council members, thank you very much for this opportunity to present our proposed 26-27 budget. I always like to start off our presentations with our mission statement. The mission of the Bakersfield Fire Department is to protect, engage, and inspire a safe community through all hazard response, community risk reduction while delivering legendary customer service. That's something we really take to heart, something that's really important to us. I'd like to give you just a quick update on your Bakersfield Fire Department. You have a very capable Bakersfield Fire Department. Over the past 10 or 15 years, our call volume has doubled. And in that 10 or 15 years, our department capabilities have expanded. We now have a Type 1 hazmat rescue team. We also have a regional USAR, Urban Search and Rescue Task Force. That was the one that deployed to the Palisades fire a year and a half or so ago. We have a Swiftwater rescue team, a state-certified Swiftwater rescue team, which responds all throughout the western United States. Last year, we responded to nearly 50,000 incidents, and I would like to point out something. Nearly 2,700 of those were advanced life support, so our paramedic services, which is an incredible accomplishment for us. As you know, we do provide a paramedical level of care. We respond to many fires outside of Bakersfield, supporting both our surrounding states and our surrounding communities. I think last year or the year before, we actually, a couple of our members went up to Alaska. And then, of course, we have our prevention and inspection services. Some of the accomplishments for this last year, one that I really like, and you guys have received a copy of it, is our annual report, which really talks about our last year and some of our accomplishments in the year, last year, and then how we're moving forward. Department-wide infrastructure improvements. Of course, we had this is really speaking to our last open house a year or so ago, but we did just have our open house on Sunday or on Saturday, and then responding to multiple fires. We've also deployed our paramedic bike team and UTV team throughout Bakersfield. I think probably our most recent deployment is the Bakersfield Marathon, where they were actually put into use a couple of times. As we know, some of those marathon routes are a little harder to get our large fire engines or our rescues into, so the bike and UTVs make a lot of sense in those. So our goals, we have many goals. These are just a couple of them. Funding opportunities, whether it be grant or revenue generation through cost recovery, fees, continued enhancement through developing a new EOP and expanding or improving upon our services to handle a large-scale mass disaster event, which we hope we never have to use, but your Bakersfield firefighters are prepared for that. Bakersfield Fire Department social media sites, we realize that a lot of people use social media out there, and it's a good way to get our story out there and a good way to inform the community. And then, of course, updating our Kern County op plan. That's something that we're in the process of doing right now. That is critical for some of our FEMA funding. And then implementing our department-wide dashboard, which will be both an internal and external facing dashboard for our community to actually look into. Now, to actually get into the budget, like all the other departments, this budget is reflective of our budget cuts. And we have seen a 9.23% increase in overall budget. Like I just said, this is reflective of the cuts that we have had, and I'll talk specifically about that coming in the next couple slides. Our primary drivers for the increase are our COLAs, our salaries and benefits, departmental CIP request, and then our internal rates. And we've heard the echoing of those internal rates, insurance, fleet, TS, those drivers that are one of those things that are hard to control, but are a necessary cost. So, budget reduction impacts. These are the impacts that the department is going to actualize come July 1st with these proposed budget cuts. The first one is we're going to remove one rescue from service. It's actually going to be Rescue 2 out of Station 2. That's going to result in a reduction of 3 captains and 3 firefighters. Those positions will be eliminated and they'll go away. We'll also eliminate 1 deputy chief position, and we will restaff the additional 2 rescues through attrition to 2 firefighters as opposed to a captain and a firefighter. So they'll go from a captain and a firefighter to 2 firefighters. We will also carry 4 firefighter and 4 engineer vacancies throughout the fiscal year, which will result in salary savings of essentially the salary and benefits minus the time and a half for overtime. We do have some capital improvement requests. As you guys have seen, as council has seen, there are 2 different kind of categories for our capital improvement request. The first one is our recommended projects. The first one is an NFPA and OSHA compliant turnout replacement. Recently, as a matter of fact, as soon as April last month, OSHA has adopted NFPA 1850 and 1851, which is going to require an advanced testing on our turnouts. And we actually have started a very minimal amount of that testing, and we anticipate a large replacement in our turnouts. HVAC systems for Station 5, 6, and 13. And then our body armor is going to be expired here soon, and replacing that for all of our firefighters in the field. And then projects for consideration, floor rehab at fire stations 6, 7, and 11, which essentially is removing the tile and pulling up all the glue and just taking it down to polishing the concrete. We found in our past couple of stations, concrete is easy to maintain and it never goes bad. So, and then a new parking area for Fire Station 3. Next year, we will actually celebrate our 150th anniversary for the Bakersfield Fire Department. As you guys can see from the pictures there. Now, none of our stations are 150 years old, but we do have some old stations that do need some TLC. Station 1 right there is actually built in 1939, and I believe that pumper you see there is 1800s. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, thank you so much for the presentation. Again, thank you for all the work that you do every day and all of the department. I appreciate, I think we all very much appreciate the fire department and all of the firefighters who get out there every day. Calls have increased. That's a trend that continues over the last, since I've been on the city council.
Forever, yes.
What are some of your busiest stations?
Yeah, you know this downtown corridor is some of our busier stations. Station 1, Station 2, Station 6, Station 7 are probably our 4 busiest stations. And the call types range anywhere from EMS calls to fire calls. I would say we probably have most of our fires in our downtown corridor within Station 2, Station 1, Station 6.
Okay. And one of the proposed budget reductions is to remove a rescue, and it's a rescue 2 out of Station 2.
Correct.
What types of calls does a rescue respond to?
Yeah, the rescue concept is actually a great concept. These were brought around after PSVS was approved. And essentially what they are is a 2-person firefighter and a captain pickup truck, and they respond to the first medical aid call that is in that station. And the whole idea behind it was we analyzed the station, the call volume the station had, and then the concurrent calls. And that's really the important thing is looking at the concurrent calls. And the idea is we wanted to make our response time as short as possible. So we deployed rescues to initially Station 2 and Station 6 and then Station 1, and they would respond to the initial medical aid call, leaving that engine available for potentially that next fire or rescue call or even that next medical aid call.
Okay, so if we remove Rescue 2 out of Station 2, one of the busiest stations in the entire city, what happens? Who then responds? We then require an engine to respond?
Certainly, yeah. It does have some operational impacts for sure. In fiscal year 24-25, we had just around 700 concurrent calls in Station 2's area. Last year, Rescue 2 ran nearly 3,100 incidents, and those are both medical aid and fires, mainly medical aids. So what will happen is on those concurrent calls, we're going to see increased response times. And what's going to happen will be Engine 2 will respond to the first medical aid, and then the next call that comes in for that area, whether it's a fire, a vehicle accident, a pedestrian, or a medical aid call, an apparatus from outside of that first in, commonly Station 1, Station 4, Station 6, Engine 41, will be responding into that area and servicing that call. So there is a longer response time when it comes to not having Rescue 2 there.
It sounds like this not only will impact the area surrounding Station 2, but will have implications for the city.
Potentially. You know, when we have another resource responding into another first in, if we get a call in that first in, you know, the resource for that first in that's already responded to another first in has to have another apparatus respond from another area into that area. Once a Bakersfield Fire Department apparatus is committed to a call, we don't stop and change our priority to another incident. So it's not something where, say we have a call that Engine 4 is responding into Station 2's area and they get another call in their first in, they don't stop responding to Station 2 and go back to their first in. They keep responding to Station 2 and another apparatus or another resource is responded into the Station 4's area. So yeah, it definitely could create increased response times.
And these positions are actually filled positions. It isn't the scenario where, you know, in many other cases throughout the city and other departments where when we actually remove positions, they're vacant. These are actually filled positions today. Is that correct?
They are. Rescue 2 is staffed today, and it is running incidents today. I will say that those positions, if Rescue 2 does get eliminated, will be eliminated through attrition. So there won't be anybody laid off. But it is a resource right now that is utilized right now and responding to incidents today.
Okay, I appreciate that so much. I just want to voice my concerns, colleagues, of this particular recommendation and this potential cut and the impacts that it has to public safety amongst our community. I, for one, will not be supporting this particular reduction and cannot support a budget that includes this reduction, given the impacts to those in our community who desperately need it, given the fact that increases for calls for service are being experienced year after year, and given the innovation really of these rescues and the fact that we're able to respond much more swiftly, much more nimbly to some of these life or death situations that our community members face. I think it is important for us to maintain the same level of service and to figure out ways in which we can make that happen and to maintain these services. And so I'm going to make a referral that we look towards other options in terms of budget reductions, but we not include this reduction in the upcoming budget. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chief. Vice Mayor.
Hi, Chief. Thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you.
So nice to see you this afternoon. My question is actually for our city manager. What is the status on our fire master plan?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm actually going to turn it back to Chief Albertson to give us an update on where the Firefighters Association is at on that.
Yeah, thank you. I can provide an update on that. We've actually been in contact with them. They required some additional information. Our GIS department has delivered that to them, and we should see some results here soon, probably within the next month or two,
Okay.
is what we were told. I will say we were told that about 3 months ago, but we have been in contact with them, and they are, for lack of better terms, crunching the data.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's been over a year since I first made that referral, and it's unfortunate that it takes so long, and it is something that is so urgent, given that fires don't wait, and we could really use that data to be able to make some informed decisions so that we don't have to make unfortunate cuts to any department, but particularly your department that is responding to such urgent and dire needs in our community. So I still very much look forward to that plan coming back and hoping that it shows that as call times increase, we need more substations. We need to be developing more infrastructure as our city grows, especially as our city grows south. I was just at Mountain View Elementary School at their opening, and they're south of Taft Highway, and they're only building south of Taft Highway. And I was sharing with them how I often have conversations with the fire department about master planning and how schools kind of are dictating, where our community is moving. And so, in the same similar spirit, I hope that it reflects exactly what we need, and so we can make really pointed decisions related to our budget. I had a question about the paramedic level of care. You had shared 2,700 advanced life support paramedic responses. And that is extremely high. Is there like a comparison of, has that also increases as a data point, or is that pretty consistent with what you've seen?
Well, I would say it has increased, but it necessarily hasn't increased because there's more ALS calls, but because we have more paramedics out in the field.
Okay.
We respond roughly to 37,000 EMS calls a year. In the past, we haven't had paramedics, and over the past years, we have slowly developed a paramedic program. We currently have 4 resources running ALS calls. Rescue 1, Engine 15, Engine 4, and Engine 13. Engine 13 is there at Panama and Stein. So that is something that myself and our chief staff are constantly looking to see where we can expand those services. A couple of the places that we have expanded those services is with our bike team and UTV team. Like I talked about earlier, where we respond to large events, we staff the marathon, we staff big concerts. We also have SWAT paramedics now. In the past, when PD had a SWAT call, they would ask for an engine to come respond. And as you may or may not know, SWAT callouts are usually lengthy callouts, and that engine resource is committed to that callout for that long time, that period of time, which was sometimes significant. So now we have actually developed a SWAT paramedic program where we have specially trained paramedics that integrate in with the SWAT team. And now when they get a call out, our SWAT paramedic handles the EMS portion of it. And now we do not respond an engine or an apparatus to that, which has been great. So we constantly look to see where we can expand our advanced level care resources.
Okay, that's kind of where my question was as well. Does our department, do other departments kind of separate out like the paramedic responses versus fires, physical fires, and how that kind of looks at cities similar to ours?
Yeah, I will say not every other department does the SWAT paramedic program like we do, but a lot of them do, like a UTV or bike team. A lot of other departments provide advanced level care, like our paramedics do. We see it here in Kern County with their medic squads. They don't necessarily do the same platform that we do, but much like LA County, LA City, things like that, other departments like that, we mirror kind of how our program performs off of theirs. And then the specialized programs are one of those things that we've really kind of adapted to. We've seen a need there with the marathons. We've seen a need there with the large events. The Christmas parade was a great one. And as we saw a couple years ago, it was a huge benefit. That and the fact that the incident happened right in front of a fire station definitely helped. But we've seen the need for that, and that's something that us as well as BPD have been able to address those.
Thank you, Chief.
Chief, what percentage of the total 50,000 incidents are non-fire related? You mentioned 37,000 EMS. That's about 74% of the total.
Roughly 90% are non-fire related. There's about 10% of them there, maybe a little bit over, maybe even into the 11 or 12% that are fire related, which is higher than a lot of other communities. Bakersfield is a very active community when we're talking fires. We run anywhere between 5,000 to 6,000 fires a year. Not all of those are structure fires. Roughly 1,000 to 1,100 of those are structure fires. I am a board member for Cal Chiefs and California Training Officers Association, and I network with other departments on a regular basis, and most of them don't see the activity that we see. Yeah, we're definitely a very active department when it comes to fires.
Thank you. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just wondering how it has worked out. We talked for years about reimbursement from insurance companies and where we're at on that.
We are actively collecting reimbursement for insurance companies, mainly our vehicle accidents. We were doing it for structure fires for a little bit, then we stopped and we just restarted again. We are receiving some reimbursement. It's not a lot. It's anywhere between $7,000 to $11,000 a month. But we currently are looking at a cost recovery platform for what's called first responder fees. And essentially what we're looking at is doing some cost recovery through insurance companies, once again, for our medical calls. As I just stated, we run around 36,000 to 37,000 medical calls every year. That could have a significant impact on revenue generation. And I hate to use the word revenue, it's more of a cost recovery generation. Right. We are in the process of doing a study to determine what that fee is going to be. And then hopefully here in the next 3 or 4 months, we'll bring that study and that recommendation to council for your approval, and we'll implement that.
So which calls are we?
So currently we are collecting for vehicle accidents, structure fires. If we get a large rescue, a while back we had a trench rescue. They're kind of lengthy. We'll do the cost recovery for that. But some of the things that are required for this is they have to have insurance. One of the agreements that we had with you, the council, is that we were not going to direct bill our community members.
Right.
Now, you could potentially see where community members could get a bill, but it's because insurance has already reimbursed them for that amount on the structure fires, and then they just need to remit that to the recovery company. But it's not additional money out of their pocket.
But you're looking to look at the EMS also?
Yeah, we're in the process of doing that right now. The study is going to start here soon. We're just gathering some information together to send it off to a company called DTA. They're going to establish, we wanted to make sure that we had a fair, equitable rate as far as the cost recovery component.
Right.
We should have that here soon, and we'll be bringing it to council hopefully here in the next 3 or 4 months.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. I don't see any other requests to speak. City Manager Clegg, would you like to offer some closing comments?
Just really briefly, Mayor and Council, again, we'll be back here on May 18th. We'll have the remainder of the departments and then also, again, a summary of where we're at with general fund and capital improvement budget. And we'll see us back at that time.
Thank you. Colleagues, do you have any other questions? Seeing none, we stand adjourned at 2:14. Sorry. Oh, this is big. Vice Mayor.
Motion to receive and file.
Motion. Okay. Please cast your votes. I know. I had that right there. It's like, remember to do that. You got to vote. And just
Motion is approved with
So now-
council members Arias, Gonzalez, and Bashir Tosh absent.
and we're.
And we're, sorry, Mayor.
Thank you. And so now we stand adjourned at 2:15.